is a new phone.
Good evening, Erev Tov. Ah, good thing you guys reminded me. Vibrate. If anybody has a phone and they don't know how to put it on vibrate, they have a coffee maker in the back. You can put it inside and it will go silence immediately.
Anyone who hasn't filled in needs to come in.
Yeah, there's an attendance sheet if we pass it around.
Anyone who's been here before can just put their first name because we've got all your details. People who haven't been, say to put all your...
Yeah, and we'll get it out.
I'll get you
So, Erev Tov, a lot of new faces and some old ones. So I'll go back and introduce myself a little bit. My name is Paz. Erev Tov. And thank you. Now, what I do is called coaching. You guys might have heard of it. If you haven't, I recommend purchasing a TV or connection to the internet, and then you can hear a little bit more about coaching. Now, what we're going to do tonight is not really a lecture. It's more of a group coaching session. We're all going to coach together towards a common goal. One of the basic things we discussed in our last couple of lectures is the fact that the knowledge we're going to share here comes from one of two sources. Either it comes from the user's manual. The second option is we use our opinions or research. Okay? Now, the user's manual is obviously always the best thing to rely on, because whoever made whatever it is knows best how it works. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be accurate when it comes to human beings, because even me as a human being, let's say I created this thing, I might know what I created it for and the things that I discovered it could be used for. Somebody else could come around and discover new uses for it that I didn't think of it. However, if I, as a creator, am all-knowing and all-capable, then there's nothing you can figure out that I didn't think of first. So, when we refer to the user's manual, we refer to the ultimate user's manual. Okay? So these are the two different... Now, I will try to remember to make a separation when I share with you information, whether I'm giving you my professional opinion as a marriage coach and counselor, or I'm using the user's manual. So far, so good? Excellent. Now, this being a coaching session, I'm not going to be the only one speaking. As a matter of fact, the less I speak, the better off we are. Okay? I want to hear your guys' opinion. If you agree with me, I don't care much. I care more if you don't. Okay? If you disagree, if you have questions, if you want to know something that touches the subject, go ahead and ask me. You'll get one of three answers. One, I'll tell you the true answer. Two, I'll tell you that I don't know and I need to find out. Three, I'll tell you that I know and I would like to answer you, but I cannot answer you in this forum, either because there are certain questions we don't answer in a public forum, and there are certain questions that might take us off subject, and you can ask me afterwards. So everybody's going to get access to both my phone number and my email address, and you guys can contact me afterwards, ask all the questions you didn't feel comfortable asking here.
What is your last name?
Laghai, Laghai. All you Facebook addicts can look me up by my last name. So, let's get started. Now tonight we're going to touch on some basic rules of happiness in marriage. Thank you. We're going to touch on the subject of happiness in marriage. When we know what it is that makes a marriage a successful marriage, when we know what it is that makes a marriage a happy marriage, we can then approach the subject of finding a partner in a lot more scientific, logical way, rather than, like a random set of events without really knowing what I'm doing, kind of like not knowing anything about cars and looking for a used car to buy. you know, you pick it because it has a nice color, which has nothing to do with how good or correct for you or effective the car will be, right? But if you know what a car is and what is there to serve you and how it serves you best, you can then better find a car for yourself. So far, so good? Now, let me just do one thing. I think that they forgot a window open behind me.
Yeah.
And I cannot find it, so we're good. Yeah? Thank you. Excellent. Now, so let's get started. There are a few misconceptions out there, and I'm going to knock them out, and I want to hear your opinions about it. The first misconception is that the success of the marriage is based on how compatible we are. In other words, when we see a couple that doesn't get along or they get divorced, we say, well, they're just not the right fit for each other. They're not the right match for each other. That's misconception number one. Okay? I would like to presume to make the assumption that the quality of marriage and how happy you are within the marriage at most will be 15% affected by whom you marry.
Can you repeat?
Yes. Happiness in marriage equals 15% who you marry. Now we need to fill up the other 85%. We believe that if we find the right partner, we will be happy in marriage. Reality shows, statistically, and people who also understand the scientific element of it know, that it's not so. Whom you marry determines very little of how happy you're going to be within the marriage. Okay? And whom you marry means also how much money you have, where you live, what profession you have, what profession your partner has. Okay? In other words, all the external elements to you guys. Knowing that, it was very easy for me to propose to my wife on the third date. As a non-religious person, by the way. Yeah, I'm a Baal Tshuva. In case you guys haven't noticed the hole in the ear, I wasn't always religious, and I knew the science of it, and once I broke it down to a proper science, third date. I don't recommend for people to do this. It's one of those, kids don't try this at home. But once you understand the philosophy of it, you understand that if not within 3 dates, you can accomplish it within a very small number of dates. Why? Because when I proposed to her, I didn't even know what her father does for a living, which is a good thing because later on I found out he was a cop. I might have not proposed. Why? How can you propose to a woman, you don't even ask her what does your father do for a living? Because what her father does for a living has zero bearing on the quality of my marriage with my wife. So it's a nice thing to know, but what do I care? Let's say her father is a practical engineer. My marriage is going to be better now. Let's say he's a contractor. He's a computer programmer, a millionaire. Zero bearing on the quality of my marriage. So I don't need it in my filterization process in order to determine whether she's my wife to be or not. Okay? That's assumption number one. Comments? Everybody agree with it. This is great. We're going to have a very quick evening. I'm sorry?
We were joking.
Don't be listening. Be commenting. This is not a lecture. This is a coaching session.
What is the science? What is the science?
What is the science to it?
What is the science? Once you got the science down, what is the science?
What is the science? We'll get there. First step of the science is to eliminate anything that's external to us. Go ahead.
I don't agree with you.
Oh?
I don't think that it's
it's 15%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's 100% with the external, but I think things have a balance. I mean, obviously, when a person grows up in a certain environment that is external, it influences that person and the values and the way that person looks at life. And I'm not speaking in terms of material, in terms of, I mean, the fact that maybe I am from Europe and I'm moving to Israel makes me being a different person than a completely Israeli. So if I meet someone, probably I come with a different set of mentality, of a vision of life. I mean, so
What is your name?
Galit.
Galit. By the way, you guys, when you start asking or commenting, give me your name so I can refer back to you in your first name. Galit said that she doesn't agree with me, and I'll repeat in a minute what you said, and then she agreed with me. Let me explain how. You just did. Galit said, look, you cannot completely ignore everything that surrounds a person, because whom the father is and how she grew up and where and what her profession is and such affects who the person is. I fully agree, which is why I only concern myself with who the person is. You see what I mean? Once I have the person as a person and I know who the person is, it doesn't matter to me how she got to where she is. Okay? Now, she could be spoiled because she was an only child. She could be spoiled because she's rich. I don't care. If I know that she's spoiled, it doesn't matter to me now how she got spoiled. So I only concern myself exactly with that point. The environment does affect, but I don't concern myself with the environment. I concern myself with the final product, which is who is sitting in front of me. I don't care how she got there. I'm not her therapist. I'm going to be her partner. I care about the final product. I don't care why she ended up being a spoiled little brat. I care if she's a spoiled little brat. Maybe I like spoiled brats. Okay? We get the idea? So I don't concern myself with what goes around. Good.
First, I agree with you not to marry after 3 days.
You what?
I agree with you not to marry after 3 days.
Not to marry after 3
definitely.
days. Okay.
But I don't agree with you about not to know the family, because in this way you insulate the person that you're going to marry.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you're just going to live with her. You don't care about what's going on with the family. If the family is not religious, if the family is don't care about you or anything like that. So you say, I'm not talking about just a father. I'm talking about a mother, a father, because in the long run, you will live with a mother as well.
Yeah, cute joke. This.
That's not a joke.
This new couple. No, I'm about to say a cute joke. This couple gets married, and right after the wedding, the mother gets ill. Her mother gets ill. His mother-in-law gets ill, and she moves in with them so the daughter can take care of it. And the guy is going crazy. They don't have any privacy, and they're a newly wed couple. And he can't take it anymore. And one day he's at work and he gets a phone call, and his wife tells him, look, I just heard they took my mother to the hospital. It's going to take me a while to get there. Please rush, get there as soon as you can. So, okay, fine. I'll get there as soon as I can. He gets there and he goes in and he starts talking to the doctor. And then the wife arrives. And the wife sees him and she says, what's going on? What happened? What did the doctor say? So the doctor said that your mother's going to heal and she's going to move back with us and she's going to live with us for the next 5 years at least. He said, really? The doctor said that? He says, yeah, I went in and he told me you should prepare for the worst. Okay, so
you agree with me?
Yes, but I agree with you. There's a little twist though. I agree with you because it depends again on my partner. It depends on her approach to family. If my partner's approach to family is such that family is extremely important for her and she's connected to the family and she would like the family to be involved and her boundaries are different than mine, then it's extremely important to know who's going to be sharing these boundaries with me. If not, then no. Again, it depends on whom I marry. It doesn't determine, the external elements are not a part. It doesn't necessarily have to be her family. Let's say she has a dog, and she loves the dog, and she cannot live without the dog. Then it's important that I get to know the dog. But if she, she has a dog, but she doesn't really care about Fluffy so much, and she's going to leave Fluffy in her parents' home anyway when she marries me, so she has a dog. You see what I mean? So again, it's not the external elements that matter to me, it's the personality, it's whom I'm marrying. If we have the same vision as to how a home is supposed to be built, then it's great. I mean, if I ask my wife, hey, are you the kind of person who likes, family coming and going, your house should look like a train stop? He says, yeah, I love it. It's great. I mean, that's how I grew up and I would love. Then wonderful. We're in agreement. And if we're not, then I have a problem with her mentality, not with her mother. By the way, this is not the pre-marriage part. Post-marriage, there are ways how to buy your in-laws. How to buy their hearts, how to buy their mind. Huh?
Dimples.
Dimples gets the job done. Bribe gets the job done.
Always they're right.
You always look innocent.
Of course they're always right. There are ways to get any in-laws, almost any in-laws, crazy about you. Okay?
Change their personality as well, or?
A brain transplant can help. There you go. But it can be done, by the way. People undermine the amount of power they can have over their in-laws. Okay. Quieter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on, so I don't have to yell. Yes?
I have a question. You say that the person that you marry is only 50% of the success.
15.
15.
Mm-hmm.
But the person that you marry brings all the background of the place that they grew, the family that they grew, the fears that they come with to the marriage. And sometimes these things can affect the whole marriage.
Absolutely.
And not only, 15% seems like a very, very small amount of effect on the marriage.
I'll tell you, I'll be honest. When I said 15%, I exaggerated. It's a lot less.
Less.
Yes, a lot less. Now, if we'll understand why, how a marriage works, and what makes people happy or unhappy in a marriage, you'll see that it goes towards zero. Now, I'll make my second presumption, and you guys can disagree with that as well. And when we finish with that one, we'll come back to the 15%. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. By the way, those ones who are sitting out there, I don't even know if you guys can even hear me. If you guys can find somewhere to squish in closer, you'll be able to hear me a little bit, or I'll be able to see your expressions, and we can do this more effectively. Okay. So, second thing. Happiness in marriage equals, and now I'm going to complete the other 15%,
Science.
the science.
Science.
Knowledge plus doing, action. Okay? In Hebrew we say, En zug lo mutzlach, yesh zug lo mudrach. In other words, you don't have an unsuccessful couple. You have a couple that lacks the knowledge. First things first is there is a lot of misinformation out there as to what makes a successful marriage successful. That misinformation leads people to frustration. That misinformation is in all fields. For example, a lot of people feel that they're fat because they eat a lot or they don't exercise enough. Well, that's only a small part of the problem. But that's what they hear and that's what they believe, and they go on diets. and diets again, and some more diets. And they end up being frustrated because they don't reach the results they expected. At which time they don't doubt the knowledge, they doubt either their own ability to change, their self-esteem breaks because they don't feel they did enough, because they take the knowledge to be absolute. What do you mean? Why am I fat? Because I didn't diet properly, or I didn't diet enough, or I didn't starve myself enough. Okay? Did you go back to the rules? I mean, we have this rule in science, right? When things don't go right, go back to the drawing board. What's the drawing board? Back to the basic invention. Back to questioning everything. How did Einstein discover that? By the way, he calculated it. He discovered it with his mind. He didn't do experiments in a lab. That light has a constant speed. Because when certain things did not fit, he went back and he broke all the rules of physics. Okay? He said, what do you mean? There are certain things that never change, like time. A second is a second, an hour and an hour is an hour. He said, no, maybe time can change. And we found out that time is a variable as well. Is a changing quantity. So we go back to the basics. And we find out a lot of times, a lot of couples that come to me, and I see desperation on their faces, I look for the misinformation. Why? Because it means that they've been doing things over and over again, not being successful, and usually it's because they don't have the right information in their hand. I cannot say accurate percentages, but if I had to make an estimate, I would say that more than 80% of people out there are running on misinformation. Misinformation as to how one becomes financially independent, misinformation about health, misinformation about running a proper marriage. Of those 20% that actually do keep running around until they get their hands on the right information, less than half put to work the second part of the equation, which means doing what you need to do until you finally see results. A lot of people do the right things, they just don't do it enough, or they don't do it the right way. Okay? When we search for information, we need to understand the gravity of the information. For example, I don't know anything about cars. I just now buy a car. Okay? I'm going to go out and buy a car. What's the smart thing to do? Take it to somebody who knows about cars, like a mechanic or the manufacturer, and ask him, how do I take care of this thing that I just bought? And he'll tell you, every winter you need to check and maybe replace your windshield wipers and your tires. You need to put oil in it, you need to put gasoline in it, and you need to put water in it. And I say, great! And I walk out. I don't have information in my hand. I don't know the gravity of changing my windshield wipers. And if I don't change them on time, will my car still go? It won't go. Will it drive? Won't drive. Could I die? Could I not die? Could the car die? We get the idea? If I come to him and I say, look, I don't know why my car is not going. He says, what do you mean you don't know why? Look, you put water, you put oil, you didn't put gasoline. I said, look, 2 out of 3. That's not bad. I mean, it should go a little, you know. I made an effort. Okay? 2 out of 3 works with you know, washing the car and brushing it and, I don't know, detailing it. Why not with that? I need to know how much do I need to put effort into every single part of the elements that I get. Nachon? So if I only get partial information, it's almost like having no information. If they tell me you need to change the oil in the car, and I change the oil in the car once every 60, 70,000 kilometers, I'm pretty much going to kill the engine, aren't I? Right? So I need to know exactly how often, how much. Now, you guys are going to go out and take a partner and bring him home. men, women, women, men. I don't care which side of the thing you guys fit on. Either you're a man and you're going to marry a woman, or you're a woman, you're going to marry a man. You're going to bring a new item home, because people are different when they're married and when they're not married. So I don't care how well you know men as a woman and how well you know women as a man. If you haven't experienced this person as a wife or as a husband, expect surprises. You're going to get a whole new product once you unwrap the wedding gifts. Okay? Now this is obvious, I'm not going to even go into details, but it's kind of like when you buy a software and you see the demo version, and then you bring it home and you find all the bugs. So you've got a whole new product item in your hands, right? If you don't know how to operate this extremely complicated machine, and a person is a lot more complicated than a car, expect problems down the line. Once I know what it is that makes a marriage work properly, I have the knowledge, and I'm willing to put in the work, I'm ready to put in the work, I want to do the work in order to make this knowledge a reality, this equation equals happiness and success in marriage. The more knowledge I have, the more effort I put, the more successful my marriage will be. Since we're not perfect, I leave a 15% room for my partner to fill in all my shortcomings. Ideally, if I was really out there, I get the knowledge and I'm really ready to put in the work, my partner will come along and together we'll build 100% successful marriage. Now, comments, questions? And don't tell me you guys don't have any, because I don't buy. I didn't expect otherwise. Galit, please go ahead.
I'm like, so basically you say that marriage is like a mechanic. There's no feeling attached, there's no emotion, as long as you do 1, 2, 3, whatever you need to do. No, but it's true, because your 15%, it can be any partner.
Let me do this.
If you go by the method, it could work with anyone.
No, let me do this, okay?
So the partner is not important.
Let me do this. Where are you from? France?
Here.
because I know Europeans, and I know that they have an excellent sixth sense of feeling people, right? So let me tell you just the names of my wife and children, and you tell me what you think I feel. My wife is called Karen, and my children are Moshe, Sarah, David, Ruth, and Yitzchak. Now, I know we're working on that. Now, let me ask you a question. Do I seem like I am apathic towards the subject of marriage and wife and kids? Is that the vibration you got from me? It's a simple yes, no. I mean, you felt, I mean, I have emotions. So how can it be?
You're very logical. I wouldn't say that you're the most emotional person I've ever met.
Betach you don't. Because I choose my places. I choose my expression. I choose what to let out and what not. It's called self-control. And that's the basic thing you learn in Judaism, is to learn to control your emotions. Good or bad, positive or negative, you need to control them and to know when and where is the right place for everything. Okay? It comes into work when my kid gets me angry, when my boss frustrates me, when I'm attracted to the coworker, when I'm... You need to know to control your emotions and to know to direct them properly. And that's, if Judaism teaches you anything, it's that. I mean, if there's one thing I gained by adapting a Jewish way of life, is control. And it starts from the smallest things. I feel like drinking, and I have drink, and it's kosher one, but I will stop and bless before I drink. I feel like eating something, but I will stop and think, have I eaten meat? Is it dairy? Is it, you understand what I mean? I will not let my impulses, even the lightest, smallest, simplest impulses, run free. Because once I let them loose, you know how this movie ends, because I know too, because I was on the other side. Say there? So yeah, you don't see it completely, but you can definitely know. Now, our approach to emotions is one of two ways. The Far East says that emotions are something to be completely ignored. You need to come to a situation where emotions are non-existent, you are almost completely robotical. Okay? They call it spiritual, I call it robotical. The Far West says, what do you mean? We're nothing but animals. Animals do what they feel. Therefore, we should do what we feel. Judaism comes and says, look, emotions has two elements. There is the natural element, and there is the decided element. There's the natural element. I go by a restaurant and I see delicious food and I feel like eating. At which point I switch to the decided element. I look at the time and I look at the wall. If it's lunchtime and there is a good hechsher on the wall, then I sit down to eat. It's a natural element that serves me. If I pass by a place and I see delicious food, but in an hour my wife will be serving me dinner and she will be extremely upset if I show home completely full and I won't eat her food, or this is not healthy food, or this is not kosher food, then this natural impulse now does not serve me. I will now not give in to my natural impulse. And there is another one that I'm going to give you guys, which is not the subject of tonight, but you should know this. Feelings and emotions can be produced by your actions. In other words, you're not only a victim of the surroundings. In order for them to produce feelings and emotions in you, you can produce and need to be in control of your emotions by producing emotions. And it's a very simple math. God, manufacturer, commanded me to love my wife. Now, certain times I love her, and certain times I don't. Sometimes love comes, and sometimes it goes. I have couples who come to me and say, look, the love went away. And I say, you're right. There is the natural element that comes naturally. We talked about this. You pass next to a delicious food and you feel like eating. Okay? But what have you done to create love? What do you mean? You either have it or you don't have it. I said, that's right. If you're an animal, but if you're a human being, you're able to create emotions. You're able to produce emotions, both in others and in yourself. Emotions are not only a natural reaction to what happens to you, emotions are also a side product of your actions. If you do the right actions, you can create emotion. Yes.
So with the right effort, you can love anyone?
That's my boy. Get things fast.
You managed to brain you wash, huh? One wash you.
Now you guys, yeah, you literally brainwash yourself into loving your partner. You literally do that. Almost the same mechanisms. We're accustomed to thinking of words like brainwashing or mental conditioning or all of these things in a negative light. Why? because they're being used for negative things. Okay? The same technology used in bombing buildings is used in mining gold and diamonds. It's the same technology. My problem is not the technology, it's how you use it. You see what I mean? The same technology that a person would use in order to woo a married woman could be used by me to woo my wife. Same technology. The question, I don't have a problem with the technology, I have a problem with how you use it. And yes, emotions are a byproduct of our actions. Now, we experience it in life always. Even a person who does not like pets, but he is now forced to babysit his brother's pet as he goes on vacation and enjoys himself. I have to clean poop. Okay? So, after having devoted myself to this animal for 2 weeks in a row, having to clean after him and wash after him and take care of him and make sure I get home on time to feed him, there's no way I didn't develop a certain level of attachment to it. Now, I don't like pets. How did I become connected to this pet? Because actions produce emotions. Somebody's awake. Wake up, guys.
Well, I have to say something about it. It's not that easy. Everything that you say, it takes a very certain, like, people that can actually do that, because people, they don't have the knowledge of what you're saying. They don't.
What is your name?
It takes a very Merav.
Merav. Merav, yes or no?
Okay, of course.
Now, repeat what you say and I'll tell you what I mean.
I said that.
It's not that easy.
It's not that easy because it takes
Yes. It's not that easy. It's not that easy at all. As a matter of fact, when you guys set out to life, you're going to have goals. You're going to want to be financially secure. You're going to want to build a good marriage. You want to raise children. You want to find a balance within your community and in your workplace, right? The toughest thing you'll ever do, harder than getting up every 2 hours in the middle of the night to breastfeed a baby and changing his diaper and bringing home money the hardest thing you're ever going to do is build a healthy marriage, which is also the foundation for everything else. If you build a proper marriage, everything else will come in easy. If your marriage is wibbly wobbly, everything else will be tough. So you're right, it's extremely difficult. Where's the no part? It doesn't take certain type of people. Anyone can do this.
Yeah, but only people who's willing to make that commitment and to do everything, to do whatever it takes.
That's right.
Okay, but not a lot of people are willing to do that.
Nachon?
That's why so many people are getting divorced.
Because they're lazy.
Willing and they don't have.
Nachon, because they're lazy.
So it's not that easy.
I didn't say it's easy.
Listen, you know the whole answer.
I didn't say it's easy. Merav is right. I said that on the first night here, and people gave me at least one eyebrow, sometimes two. And it's true. I said that people who get divorced are lazy, with the exception of either major, with the exception of, illnesses that cannot be a thing, like a person becomes mentally ill and it's not curable, or issues like that.
I didn't know that.
Okay,
Lazy.
with those exceptions, it's a matter of
It's not a matter of
laziness.
laziness, it's a matter of devotion.
Same thing.
Why?
Same thing. Now, the second factor is, some people will say, look, I just didn't have the knowledge. If I knew today what I knew back then, I wouldn't get divorced because I would work harder. Well, you didn't work hard finding that information. You follow what I mean?
Yeah.
The hard work is not only in doing the right thing. Sometimes the hard work is finding what it is you need to do.
You cannot blame yourself. You don't learn that in school.
Nachon,
So?
you're right. I didn't learn it in school.
You need to be divorced before to come to
That's right. The secret to a successful marriage is to run a couple of bad ones. That's right. Good marital advice. Okay. So we're going to go, one second, I just want to wrap up Mirav's answer. So Mirav, you're right, but now you just hit the nail on the head on one of the things you need to look for in a partner. What do you need to look for in a partner?
Someone who's willing to.
Someone who's willing to put in the work, and they realize that marriage is hard work, and it's the hardest work of all. And I'll tell you why it's the hardest work of all. Because it's the only system that forces you to change the one thing you don't want to change. Anybody can give me an idea of what it is? Yourself. Okay? Everywhere else, I can either change what's external to me, or change as far as let's call it my training goes. I can pretend, whereas in marriage I have to change my essence. So it's the hardest thing. Once I find a partner that understands that marriage is about change, and they're here to put in the work to change,
I think change is not the right
a lot easier.
Change is a difficult word, I think.
Okay.
Because people don't want to change, you know. They want to...
Nachon, which is why their marriages look like this.
Yeah.
1 second. He had a question.
I think that in society people have been programmed to look for perfection, and I don't think there's such a thing as perfection for anybody. And
So right.
I think that
So right. What's your name? Yehuda.
And I think the longer that people, wait to get married, the more they become ingrained in their way of acting, in their way of thinking, and the harder for people it is to change.
Beautiful and smart, Yehuda. Psh, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. This is what I would call today an epidemic. It's an epidemic. People think that the better their partner is going to be, either or both, they think that their marriage is going to be better, and or they believe that this is their way of securing themselves against what they see is happening all around. They see people around them either getting divorced or worse, living miserably. And they think that if they find somebody who lacks all those flaws, then they will not reach that situation because they weren't here in the last 2 meetings. And in the last 2 meetings, we explained that a match within couples does not exist. We get closer or further apart as far as our compatibility goes, but we cannot find a match. So we find somebody who's close enough to work with and willing to work with, and we start the work. And you're so right that every day that passes, our chances of finding somebody goes down. And the simple for that is extremely logical and statistical and scientific. Let's look at it from 2 elements, okay? Let's take the element of reality outside. I can tell you that the quality of people every year keeps going down and down. And the reason for that being is because every year we get fed more and more information that's not true. We buy into it, and we are being brainwashed as to be a bad partner for life. If we look at the media, if we look at TV, movies, advertisements, if we look at modern psychology, if we look at any of those elements, we see that we're being conditioned to be bad partners. Okay? It's one of the things that the media does is it shortens our attention span. It's a scientific thing. If you go on Google and Google it out, and you'll find out that the more people are exposed to media, the shorter their attention span becomes. One of the basic elements of a marriage is a long attention span by both sides. The shorter your attention span is, the worse your communication is with your partner, the worse your marriage looks. This is just one example. So every year we get more and more connected, more and more exposed, the quality of people goes down. People are less and less willing to work hard. Take people from not that far ago. I don't mean our grandparents. I mean 15 years ago. People understood that success came with hard work. Today people understand that success comes with a good lawyer and a criminal background.
2 minutes on TV.
Or a small exit.
Or a small exit. Okay? We understand the idea. People forgot the basics of what it is, the founding blocks of a marriage. So every year it's only getting worse.
I think they're more independent these days. When in the old days of you say 15 years old,
Nachon.
everybody have the independent.
Nachon.
Shall I give my independent for her or for him?
That's right, that's another thing. Okay? So the problem is that first of all, just the merchandise out there is a lot worse. Okay?
Excuse me, I don't agree with in the sense, I don't think the quality gets worse. On the contrary, I think quality improves. However, doesn't mean that the quality that maybe you're talking about comes to, how much do you want time or effort you want to put into marriage and so forth.
Absolutely.
But there are other qualities that might be...
They're useless to me. I mean, if the guy can do math real fast in his head, is that not going to make my marriage any better? So if he has spent his life improving that quality, if he has improved his quality in either being able to calculate things real fast or he better salesperson or whatever quality in him he has, if it doesn't serve my marriage, doesn't help.
I don't agree with your point.
Let's hear.
First of all, I believe in timing.
In
timing. Timing is a process. We speak about, you said last class that as human beings we're evolving all the time.
Nachon.
So there are two methods of evolving, self-evolvement and the ones that you're talking about, that is through marriage and relationship. I truly believe that before the day a person comes in a situation when they decide to get married and find a partner, there is a personal development. That's why we don't marry when we are born. We get married at a certain age.
Absolutely.
We find the right maturity. Some people it takes more time than some other.
So
and I'm probably the only one that will say that, I really believe that I will be a far better partner today in my life for any other person than I would have been 10 years ago.
Could be.
And I don't believe that the fact that I've been waiting whatever time makes me a less qualitative person. So if I'm like that, I project that on everybody else here.
I agree.
And I'm saying that everybody here, when they will meet the right person, they will be ready, and the process they have lived, if they have understood their lessons, will just enrich their marriage, and not the other way around.
Galit, I agree.
Person.
I'm not referring to one's timeline. I'm talking about the average common person on the street, as far as time changes on the calendar. Means in the year 1992, if you picked out an average common person on the street, he was better built for marriage, a 25, let's say, year-old person, then you pick up a 25-year-old person at 2002. Okay? I don't mean in one's life. Of course, a person needs to, I mean in society. Okay? In other words, somebody pulled the handle and society is going down the toilet. Okay? So that's one element of it. The second element of it, that past a point of maturity, you're right, every fruit needs to mature. But the moment they reach maturity, what happens every single day from now on? That's right. That fruit rots. The moment that fruit reaches its maturity, from then it starts rotting. That's the natural way of things. The moment we finish reaching our maturity, we now can do one of two things. We can now evolve to the next level and be born again. Because when a person is married, he's born again, and start the process of growing and blossoming all over again. Or if we stay the same way, we start going down. The longer we wait, the more difficult our marriage becomes. Say there? Wow, you guys are so serious. It's not that bad.
No.
You were serious.
Oh my God, she's depressed.
Shriveled prune.
Yeah, I had a phone call from a friend of mine. That's it. I need to get this married this year. I said, what happened? What's special about this year? She said, I'm starting to feel like those old women who's